it was just, if, when you sit and do this meeting one after each other, sometimes you need.
Yeah, that's true. We got after yours, we are done.
Okay.
So I'm having a software magazine for developers.
Yeah.
That's available online, free to download. People can see it and use it. And we also do this video that will be for our YouTube channel, small YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So far. So yeah, we can start. Yeah, so let's get started. We saw your presentation yesterday. It was really impressive, and the question is, how you will describe yourself as a person?
As a person?
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting question, and probably one that doesn't get asked enough in startups, right? Because it has a lot to do with who you are.
Right.
I think I'm quite ambitious, and I'm quite outgoing, and I'm quite tenacious. Like I don't lose faith easily. Like if something goes terribly wrong, I'll be upset for 5 hours, and then I'll be back. So I think that's a good one. And then I'm quite social. I'm genuinely interested in talking to people. And I think that when you're a CEO and you do a lot of networking and partnerships and strategic stuff, being interested genuinely in people is a huge advantage, because it's a big part of your job. And I think if you prefer to be home coding, doing my job would be hard.
Right.
We have other people who prefer being home coding. They do that, and then I do this part.
There's a team.
Yeah.
Okay. And one other, let's say, interesting question. Can you detail for our readers, we got yesterday a really nice concept about why someone will use an application, was get laid for money and something else. Can you explain it again?
Yeah, I can. I think that one of the things that's most overlooked in the startup area is the psychology. Why people are using it. I think we start on a layer too high. There's something called, the behavioral economics and stuff, where you can go in and try to predict why would people do this, what is it in them deep down. And I think that we have to go back to like the tribal society and look at the really deep stuff. We all want to survive, we all want to race in power, we all want to get the best mate. And when I say that there are a lot of stuff is about getting laid, it's because it goes back to the primal. Everyone want to bring further their genes, right? So therefore, people have always been competing for the best mate. And a lot of stuff we do today, like for example, Facebook got famous because people use it a little bit as a dating thing. And I think a lot of very successful companies have these big underlying things, like the whole makeup industry and the shoe industry and the clothes industry is built on that we want to look good. Why do we want to look good? Because we want to be more attractive to the opposite sex, right? And I think that you should try and tie into one of those. It may also be that you have anything in productivity, for example, essentially, if you boil it down, appeals to that we want to be wealthier, we want to be more powerful, we want to rise in status. So I believe very much in that, like the psychology behind the products.
How do you see location? So basically, your game is Everplaces. It's based. I think I didn't use it myself, but I think you have. So you have the iPhone application. So you are using the location-based system.
Yeah, we are. It's kind of built your own travel guide, right?
Okay, right?
In your own town, and when you travel with stuff that's only relevant to you. A lot of the media calls it Pinterest for the real world, right? Ooh, that restaurant I would love to try one day, and then you note it down. So instead of getting this book with 95% irrelevant stuff, then over time you develop your own, you share it with your friends, you pick stuff from cool articles, cool websites. So you want to hear what I think about the location?
The question was, how do you see evolution of these location-based services? Because everyone is using mobile device, you can take an advantage of it. And how do you see this evolving, let's say, 5 years from now?
I think it's not going to be an industry anymore. I think it never was an industry. like I think the same as social and mobile. Location is going to be something that's just integrated in any device, right? Like we have better technology, now we know where you are. It's the same as now we know who your friends are. I don't think that it's defining. I think it's an of course already today, right? That of course it can do different stuff. So I think the industry as itself will die as it should, and it will turn into just a small part of useful services.
And you got also yesterday a really interesting point about getting, don't try to be local, try to be global.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on this? Because local has some advantage, like you know the people there, you got some better connection. You can do maybe better materials than be generic over the world.
Yeah.
But you can.
Well, I think that there's two kinds of entrepreneurs, right? And if you want to build something really big and that can really become successful, then you have to test that it works globally straight away. So you can actually waste 1 or 2 years trying to build something locally, and it may work or it may not work, but that may not necessarily show you whether it has very big potential. So I think you can waste a lot of time, because while you're sitting and testing it in Bucharest, for example, some American startup may be going global from the beginning, and then you've lost your footing in the market. So I think it's a little bit about time, and I think that I come from a very small country, right? I'm Danish, and I think one of the things you learn coming from a small country is you have no home market. So we've never done anything in Danish. It doesn't say anywhere that we're Danish, because we do not consider ourselves a Danish company, right? We're a mobile company, and that means that Everplaces is being used in 90 countries, right? And that's interesting. It's much more interesting than being strong in Copenhagen. Yeah.
And how you monetize your business, for example, if you start to,
Yeah, well, right now we're not focusing very much on monetization. Right now we're focusing on growth, and I think I can reveal without saying too much that the part of the product that's out now, the bookmarking service, is only the first part of what we're rolling out. So we're very much focusing on building the final parts of the product. But we do have monetization. There's quite a lot of opportunity in this space. It's not hard to imagine that once in the future, if you find a restaurant you like on Everplaces, you can book it through the app.
Okay. And are you open, for example, for third parties to start to use like a public API that people can build other services on top of it? Or?
Yeah, we're actually starting to test that right now, and right now we're doing our first partnership with a Spanish hotel, kind of like a Spanish Airbnb called Migoa, great site. And they are using our data to show recommendations around the property. So I'm hiring this flat, what should I go nearby? People don't want recommendations anymore from an editor or a journalist. They want it from local people. So they're using our API to power that. So that's very interesting. We'll see how that goes, but a lot of potential.
Okay. We will continue to look at your service and see the evolution. Did you collaborate, for example, with the universities or with academic space?
No, not specifically. We are a little bit. I'm on the board of the startup competition for the universities in Denmark called Venture Cup. It's the biggest startup competition in the world, actually. So we know what's happening at the universities, and of course we use it a lot for recruitment and for testing stuff, and we do a lot of talks out there. But I think we have to be very fast, and sometimes it's fastest to do stuff by yourself, then you can always take in partners later.
And what will be your advice for a future entrepreneur or someone who wants to start his business now?
I think there's two things. One thing is to just get started, because there's never going to be a perfect day. You're never going to have enough time or enough money or the right people, so there's only one way, just jump. The second is that I would focus on an industry that has good fundamentals, right? I think there's a lot of startups that are being built on fluffy stuff, industries where no one is buying companies and no one is paying for services. So I would really build on an area that is profitable. My first company was an e-commerce company, and it went very well and it got sold. But I think I discovered that the niche was too small. I could have never made that into a billion-dollar company. The area was too small, but it was no easier, and it didn't take any less time to build the small one as it would have been to build something that had much bigger potential.
Okay, so think global, I think is...
Think global, or think about people are always going to need transport, they're always going to need clothes, they're always going to buy food, they're always going to buy glasses, contact lenses, build stuff that people care about. And don't build, for example, location-based services that tells you where your friend's dog is, or, you know, there's some crazy products being built that has very little application. I call it the grandmother test. If your grandmother doesn't understand why you're doing it, then go back to basics, find another area.
What do you think about printed magazines or books and versus digital? How do you use it?
I think that it's two different industries. Personally, I'm a very big lover of books. And I think that people buy books for different reasons than they buy digital content. Like I went, for example, so I have a digital travel company, but I might still buy a travel book because I like to have it home at the bookshelf.
Okay.
And I think we have to understand that people use these devices for different things. So I think they can live side by side. Having said that, I am very glad that I am not the owner of offline service, especially like magazines. It's just the distribution costs are just, it's not, it just doesn't stack up anymore. So I think they seriously have to reinvent themselves, and I don't think, to be honest, they've done a very good job. Like most publishers have just taken something like this and put it on the iPad. And I don't think that's enough.
Not a good idea. No.
It's not enough. The iPad can do totally different things, like know where you are, know who you are, know who you know. You need to reinvent.
Yeah, and they're making just smaller and...
Yeah, and they think they can use the same cost structure. And I don't think that. One of the things that I believe in is repurposing of content. I think that, for example, in the travel industry, if I'm going to Morocco, then I might need to buy 10 copies of travel magazines to both read about the hotel and read about where to go shopping, because they have one article here, one article there. I think it would make sense if you could get a digital version that's all the articles about Morocco.
Right.
So why don't they use that content again, sell it for less money, but packaged in different bundles?
Yeah, I mean, go somewhere and buy an online generated magazine, let's say, something like this.
Yeah, but where I decide more what's in it based on what I'm doing. So yeah, that makes sense, right? They need to sell stuff more than once because the prices are different from what it used to be.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I'm out of the question, so we are done.
There we go. Very interesting questions, different from the ones I normally get.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Our magazine is printed just for events like this.
Yeah.
But usually, most of the people, like 1,000 issue, are reading it online.
Yeah.
So we have a kind of community of developers.
Great.
So if you want in the future, if you want to publish something, we are welcome.
Okay.